Today's guest, Dr. Wayne Benenson, is someone who we know. We are close with his co-author, Dr. Barb Hewson, and there he is. And I am so excited to talk to him today with a number of our clients. On how to deal with kids who are violent. Wait, let me make sure this went through. Okay, this should work. With kids who are violent. I don't know if the term is oppositional child disorder or something like that, but it's really scary when you are getting out of a toxic relationship and then your child ends up being physically violent toward you. Oh, what a relief that you're here. I'm thinking, I hope it works because last night we couldn't get it to work. But anyway, so Dr. Wayne, I was saying, I'm so glad that you're here to talk about this because you are such a calming influence on everyone. And you certainly have decades of experience working with difficult people and angry children who have all kinds of emotions going on. Do you want to briefly introduce yourself before we get to it? And again, thank you to our clients who brought up this issue and gave me an excuse to talk to Dr. Wayne.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Are you still indoors?
Yeah. Everybody who doesn't know, we have all the smokes from the Canadian fires, even though we're down in Connecticut and New York. Yeah.
Any
Day 3.
better today than
Yeah.
yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, the smokes haven't arrived in Phoenix yet, so I'm still good.
Good.
About me. I teach mindfulness. I teach it online. I teach it face-to-face. And short story is mindfulness helps you change your relationship to external. Doesn't change the external. It just brings out more of the internal.
Right. And so you have worked in the past as a junior high school teacher, as I did decades ago. So in the inner city, so you have had a lot of experience with oppositional children and tweens and teens, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I was going to say, you also worked with a number of high-functioning autistic kids who could lose self-control, as you say, at the drop of a hat. And I know a lot of our clients and many people in this community have kids with special needs, whether it's autism or something else. So you're comfortable with chaos, just like we are, I imagine.
Yeah, when you accept it as a norm, you don't think twice. So
yeah.
It's you bring up a really important point, and it's very important to know what the intent is of the person in front of you. So if you relate to the behavior, the misbehavior, the naughtiness, you're just playing into their frustration. So then until you become frustrated. And kids have enormous capacity to stay frustrated longer than adults.
It's a great observation.
So I think one of the greatest gifts we have been given comes from Dr. Phil. I just ask, how's that working for you? And it usually cuts to the chase. And no one wants to be in a bad place. They just don't know how to sidestep it and get out. So knowing who is in front of you is really, really important. And just being aware of why you're there with them is important. So you don't go down the rabbit hole of negativity.
Okay, so let's say I have a child, as this is what led to this conversation. We have, our clients are dealing with high conflict divorce, crazy post-judgment situations, and lots of emotions going on in the household, especially with kids. And we know kids are in the middle. So sometimes kids get physically violent with their parents. And of course, the parents are ashamed because they're blaming themselves already for what's going on. The kid is attacking them, and their ex is saying, well, it's because you're a terrible parent. But in the meantime, so they're dealing with all of that with themselves, but then they have this kid that's attacking them. And you said, know what's in front of you. How do you connect to a child that is furious?
You let them be furious, just not on you.
Okay.
You sidestep it,
How,
literally.
how do
And
we
you are
sidestep that?
really, really clear about consequences. Hitting means you will blank, whatever the rule is in your house. Go to timeout for 10 minutes. I leave the scene of the crime. I will not engage in violence with anyone. That is a prime directive in my life. Right now, you are violent. This is not a time to discuss my parenting style. End of story. Now, I have to add something that's really important here. Is it really oppositional disorder or is it lack of focus? Because a lot of kids have ADD or ADHD. They don't know how to corral these feelings. It's just so overwhelming. I used to be an early childhood teacher, and we would laugh, my colleagues and I, oh, so and so's having some huge feelings. They don't know how to disengage from huge to something smaller. So it's really important to ask where this violence is coming from. Is it coming because I am on overwhelm, or is it coming because I'm just being defiant? I'm just being a pissant. That question has to be answered first.
How do you, who asks that question? Because if I imagine asking that to a child in the middle of a temper tantrum, I can't imagine them being able to answer it.
Oh, no. You ask that of the person who's getting beat upon. So, who is beating upon me? Is this someone
Mm-hmm.
who really does know how to self regulate and is just overwhelmed? I'm going to respond differently. Or is it
Mm-hmm.
someone who, I don't care what you do, what you say, I'm going to come at you with both barrels. And then my
All right. So let's
response
talk
will be,
Go ahead.
no, I'm not going to allow that. I sidestep it. And here are the consequences. Very clear. When you have more self control, then we can talk. But this is not a time to talk.
Okay. So what could be the different approach? So say you're dealing with a kid who is overwhelmed and they can't control themselves at all. They're not just being a piss ass. But how do you respond differently to that?
Can you take a breath? Can you take a deep breath now? I'm asking a question. It's a yes no question. That's not an appropriate answer. Can you take a breath now? When you take a deep breath, then I can respond to you. Now, as you know, and some of your listeners and viewers know, I'm a really sneaky individual.
I
How
don't think
long
I'm
do you
good.
want me to take a breath? Longer than you're doing right now. And back and forth and back and forth.
Uh-huh.
You show me some self-control. I'll give you what you want, which is attention. But I'm only going for positive attention.
Mm. What are some common responses you see? Because I imagine as this starts to happen that the power dynamic starts to shift.
I hope I'm not being unkind, but parents can't respond to insults. It's just a death trap. You are whatever foul words come out of their mouth, to which the parent, who supposedly can't get to a calmer place because they've been on the planet longer, can look at the situation and say, you're really fired up, aren't you? Of course I'm fired up. I don't like it when I get fired up. What can I do to help? Now, this is
So
putting
instead
the
of getting
fire out.
defense, so no,
Absolutely.
yeah, like
Absolutely.
how dare you call me that? That is so disrespectful to take a completely different approach, almost to mirror what you're observing. I see you're all fired up. What can I do to help? Which I imagine would be shocking
Oh,
to someone in the middle of
it
a
ticks
screaming.
them off. I want to be having my hand on the open, exposed wire. I'm loving this drama because I'm in control and
Hmm.
you're not. So, in any given situation, think of that encounter, parent and kid, as a threesome phenomena. There's me, there's you, and there's us. What the parent can do is sidestep and look at that situation of us going on. Kid yelling at parent, not yelling at me, yelling at parent. The parent can choose any way he or she wants to respond. So if I'm on the side, that third party looking in, I can see that kid is really distressed. And to say, how can I help? It's a loving, compassionate response, but it's not going to work until that kid wants it to work.
Mm.
Well, I guess I can't help because you want to go. And if there's any, this is very delicate, any space for humor to get in, that's the time to use it. Let's look at it from another perspective. How would you feel about me as the authority figure if I'm going, nah, 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 and usually the kids laughs.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty stupid. That's what I'm saying right now. Are you calling me stupid? No, I'm calling this situation untenable. What can I do? And repeat it lovingly until the fury. You got to remember, their norm is fury. They didn't choose this reality. This reality was hoisted upon them. They're really ticked off. Acknowledging that. I'm not talking about blame. No, not judgment. You have every right to be upset. You do not, however, have a right to do violence to physical property or to my person. And I want to help you.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And, as you're talking, I'm thinking that so many of our people want to be a superhero and take the pain away from the child. They're like, I don't, whatever it is, let me just not make them feel this pain. So they want to put like a Band-Aid on stuff. And I think instead of confronting the anger because it's so scary, they'll coddle and almost simper like the way they did in the relationship. Like, what can I do to make you stop yelling at me?
Yeah,
what do
I
you see
think,
happening with that? Like, because to me, it seems like that's not healthy
oh, it
for
isn't.
anybody.
And in fact, the anger will multiply even more so until the kid loses complete awareness. So you make an assumption the kid has some awareness of what's going on now. We've been here before. It's not the first time we've seen the anger unleashed. By the parent trying to take on that anger, you're giving a signal to the kid, anger is okay. And someone's just going to absorb it like a magnet. You do that on the streets, you're going to get arrested.
Or worse.
Or worse, that anger can turn around to someone who's not very stable. So even though the parents that you and Chris deal with feel vulnerable, they are in fact not unstable. So what I say to that parent is think of a time when you're stable, when you're grounded. What gives it to you? And, in a non-angry situation, people know. Oh, working in my garden, taking a walk, hugging my plush dolls, whatever. Good, get there. Hold on a second, angry kid. I need to do something. Right there in the middle of the crime. Take a deep breath. In your mind, go to that safe place. Okay, I'm now ready. Can you get ready? If you're going to continue yelling, then we're going to have this conversation later. Meanwhile, you just lowered the temperature.
Yeah.
So there was a joke about me. Principals tended to put me on the corner classroom away from other classrooms because I had more than my share of ODD kids. And I would do that. And they would
What's
yell.
ODD, Dr. Wayne? What's ODD mean?
Oppositional defiant disorder.
Okay.
So I'm not a psychologist, but I've been trained on how to deal with violent situations. So I'm going to allow some anger, but immediately I'm going to label that anger. So on the Richter scale of 1 to 10, you're giving me about a 9 now, maybe a 9.5. I don't bother talking to you until it's at least a 6. Now I'm going to take a deep breath. Are you watching me? Well, I'm lowered it now. I'm about an 8. What are you? And at that point, I'm controlling the narrative. That's the key. So all the teachers knew it's better that Dr. Wayne is controlling the narrative and it gets noisy a little bit rather than that noise going on for 15 minutes as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And you know, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the importance of that pause in anything. And you know, part of with our coaching, we deal with people, you know, in a court situation being bullied by an opposing counsel. We'll say they'll often pick up the pace, they'll do rapid fire questions. And what you need to do is take a breath and slow things down. And it's almost the same kind of notion, like you got to slow things down. We always say, turn the volume down so that people can think and respond more appropriately.
Yeah, I have a visual that I use with my mindfulness kids, my class, and it shows 2 women walking towards a forest. And there's sunshine, you can see the sun out. And then you see the bubble by these 2 women. The woman who has the blue top on sees mountains, sunshine. She's in the moment. The woman with the red top on, in her bubble, there's money problems, there's problems with the boyfriend, there's problems with the kids, there's problems with the work. Her bubble is really filled up. There's no place to see what's directly in front of her in the moment, the mountains and the sun. So, given that visual, and I asked the question of my kids, who's more mindful? It's an easy answer. How you get there is the next step. I get there by taking a deep breath, maybe more than one, and visualizing what calm is in my life. How do you get there? Now, asking that question changes the focus, changes the intent. Oh, I'm trying to help you. Are you not wanting to be helped? Okay, then I'm taking off and I'll be available when you are ready. Kids don't know that unless they're given an opportunity to do that. And they
And you're
want it.
modeling that.
And
Yeah,
I'm
you're modeling that directly. Because one of the things we talked about too, or I want to talk about some more, is how kids get so explosive. And you had noted that explosive parents model the violence that leads to explosive children. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah. Um, if you think of a balance, so you got to balance your weighing fruit, whatever. On one side is change, on the other side is stability. If you have never felt stable, you're always going to be unbalanced. The anger, the instability, the anxiety, whatever it is always going to be uppermost. So you have to build on what is stable in someone's life. Now, if you are being assaulted emotionally, psychologically, psychically by a not only unresponsive ex, but someone whose sole goal is to get you unbalanced, it's real hard to find what's stable. Because if you're going to go to the ground, if you're going to go to the mat, you have to look at the dynamic of trust versus risk. Most people who are unstable have given that up. I can't handle that now. I don't trust anybody. I'm not going to take a risk that, which tells me you're paralyzed. If you're paralyzed, yeah, that instability is going to, you're not going to be able to deal with that change, to deal with that instability in any effective way. So, and this is going to be harsh news for many of your parents, admitting to your vulnerability, admitting to your humanness in a moment that you want to be strong is really good parenting. I don't think I can handle you right now. This is more than I'm able to deal with, more than is in my wheelhouse. What's the matter with you? You're supposed to be a good parent. Well, then I'm not the kind of parent you want me to be. Don't go to the good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Frame it in reference to the kid. I'm not able to give you what you need right now. For me to do that, I need to do some things for myself. Right here, live action. I remember going to a pool and having the inner tube around me and just soaking up some rays. That's the image I'm thinking of right now. The kid's going to think you're crazy. You are modeling stability.
I love that. And actually, I think about things that people do to protect themselves from danger, like being in the middle of the city. Sometimes acting crazy is what protects you because people they're surprised.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
just like, oh, I better stop what I'm doing, go away from that person.
There was there was this kid in my high school class, and I grew up suburban, so it's not inner city, who he was small, he was nerdy, he looked frail, he was pale. I think he didn't get out in the sun much. So he was an obvious target for the bullies, an obvious target for the gangs that were uh, in and around the school. But he had a secret weapon. He could do crazy with the best of them. It so freaked out the chief bully. He said, "We don't need this," and then off they went. So own your craziness. Don't make it crazier if make fear come in, but yeah, own your craziness.
Yeah, yeah. I love these ideas for modeling stability and how to kind of surprise a kid in the middle of an outburst into not doing what they expect you to do. So they expect you
Yeah.
to engage and keep battle. I mean, this is the same thing we're thinking about with our clients and their exes. They expect you to get upset. They want your attention. They want you to get upset because that'll keep it going.
Yeah.
But some of the things you're recommending are removing yourself from the situation, even if you're physically still there, but doing something different from what the other person is trying to make you do.
Yeah, and I want to take that one step further. So everyone knows how to breathe, but it's an unconscious thing. We're breathing when we sleep. When I say take a breath, I'm talking about a conscious breath. And I break it down for my students to say there's three parts of a breath. There's the inhale, there's the exhale, and then there's a space between inhale and exhale. What I'm alerting them to is the pause. Inhale, exhale, pause. In that pause, you can move your mind to another place, a place that's safe, a happy place is what I call it. But now, kids are ratcheting it up. Adults, the exes are ratcheting it up. At that point, I asked the question. I said, here's a stupid question, answer it for me. Is that a naughty place? Is there a knot? You can't get anywhere. And obviously, they say yes. And I said, well, have you ever undone a knot? And usually they'll say, yeah, I've undone it. Is it likely you're going to be successful when you're all riled up to undo the knot? And they'll say, no. You see, what happens to me is I see a little space and I can pull on one of the threads and then I can pull on another thread. There's a little space in that knot. You already know about that space. Inhale, exhale, pause. Inhale, exhale, pause. Go to that space. Teach your child about that space.
You know, and you're thinking about like I do a lot of exercising during the week, and one of my classes, it's like we have a move. You like do this, kick, and then pause, and it's almost like a reset, so you can prepare for the next move. So it's the same idea that the pause is almost a brief chance to reset and do something different or plan a different move or your next move.
And I don't know how familiar you are with like Eastern exercises like yoga or Tai
Mm-hmm.
Chi or Qigong, but I think there's wisdom there in rest. You have action, you have rest. So You know, my doctor says, I want you to keep your heart rate down. So I want you to get up to 140 beats per minute when you're doing your daily walk. And there I am, speed walking through my neighborhood. There he goes. There he goes, speed walking through the neighborhood. And I'm going to do that for 30 or 35 minutes. No, there's times to rest. I'll talk to the neighbor. I'll sit and look at the beautiful sunset, or has the tree changed any blossoms. Make rest a part of that moment when there's action and rest. In that rest, you have the pause. In the pause, you can undo knots.
So it's almost like on the micro level, in the middle of the battle, there needs to be pause and rest. And in the macro, in the rest of your life, you also need to have those moments of pause. And I think about our clients who are dealing with legal abuse, among other things. We're just like, I can't. And we're like, you can do it, because it's not always going to be this intense. There are going to be periods of rest. So we're gonna work, to keep that marathon mindset going, but it's not going to be craziness all the time.
Let me share an exercise I do. Kids adapt to it immediately. They don't give me much resistance. I get more resistance when I'm doing my mindfulness classes with adults. And I say, can I do an exercise that I've labeled "Be Here Now"? And they look at me and I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell me your name. I want you to tell me your age. I want you to tell me where you are physically in the world at this moment, and then what you've done in the last hour. Okay, I'll go first. My name's Dr. Wayne. I'm 74. I'm sitting in my office, and I took a lovely walk around my neighborhood just before this podcast. Can you do that? What that does is it not only grounds you to the pause, but it grounds you to this moment. There's all sorts of potential possibilities in this moment. But if you got blinders on and you're only seeing what's directly in front of you, which is intense, it's overwhelming, then it's easy to do the fight, flight, freeze. It's almost expected. However, if you say, outside of this bubble of me and you duking it out, the birds are singing, the plants are growing, and there's a dog barking. Which awareness are you going to be aware of? What I'm hoping you can do is both. That's the intent.
Yeah. So Dr. Wayne, someone we've obviously recommended you to a few of our clients who are very happy with how you're handling their children, and it's helping our clients as the parents as well. And but it is important to try to establish a rapport with these kids, and you do your work over Zoom. So it's not, I mean, you do it in person for other things, but for our clients who are all over the world, you do it over Zoom. How do you deal with kids who will not come to the table? Like, or what do you suggest parents do? Because we know situations where the kid's like, I'm not going to talk to Dr. Wayne because there's nothing wrong with me. And I don't know why you're pushing me to talk to this therapist. Like, what do you do? Where do you start?
That's a big one. Getting to the starting line is huge. And I need to say right off the top, I immediately say I'm not a therapist. I'm a teacher. Why? More kids and more adults have, as part of their life experience, being in school, being with a teacher, knowing what lessons are, than they do about being with a therapist. Because a therapist is trying to say how you can be a better person. A teacher saying, I got these skills to teach. It's about attention, and it's about calmness, and it's about kindness, and there we are. So I will say to the kid, or have the parents say to the kid before meeting number one of the three, think of a stool, a three-legged stool. 3 legs are like the least amount you can have to bear weight. So 3-legged stool for mindfulness is paying attention, noticing what's around you, not just through your tunnel vision, but all around you. Being calm, especially when you're not, and your emotional register is way up here, and being kind, being compassionate. So it's a fair question for our parents to ask. Don't do this when the kid's yelling at you, but in a moment when it's not so angry, are you calm? Is this stuff between what's going on with mom and dad making you calm? And you're gonna get a straight answer. Kids are usually very honest, even if they don't like you. No. Well, that's what Dr. Wayne does. He teaches how to do calm. Now, if that's not important to you, so be it. But if it is, you can do it. Then I come back to what I do. I make it really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
In the half hour that I have them, we go through 5 to 7 distinct activities. Boom, 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 boom. And part of it is contemplative and getting quiet, and part of it is problem solving, and part of it is just noticing their body, because that's the first thing we do. When they're mad, you're up in your head. I don't see you. I just see this object of my anger. It could be the wall. You're blending into this massive background. So tell me where you're feeling tension or tingling or tightness in your body. Let me tell you where I'm feeling it. Boom, 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 boom. So we have this wonderful hour, and I play games with them. I've been teaching for 50 years. I've learned a few games. And kids always feel better afterwards. And there was kind of a joke about me. My schedule was getting filled up, and the only time I had was just before bedtime to take kids for this half-hour mindfulness class. And a parent say, I don't want that. I want to be able to read to them. I said, why are you going to read to them? Says to calm them down. Use me to calm them down. Oh, so now we do. I have a lot of kids around bedtime.
That's great. So I also was wondering, how do you tell, is there a way for parents to know that their kids are going to be or more likely to be at risk, like angry, or is there a way to get kids into getting this kind of help sooner rather than after it's already gotten explosive? How would a parent know?
The kid is going from 0 to 60 in a nanosecond. There's no shock absorber to their anger, to their overwhelm, or to when you get off, you're either going to go to overwhelm or you go to numb, go to fight or flight, or you go to freeze. So the image I use is of a stream. There's a river and it's flowing, and on each bank you have a tendency. One is overwhelmed, where you're fighting or flighting. You're just going to deal with it. You're going to force your issue. Or I'm just numb. So then I'll ask the kid, when you get into the situation, stay away from the parental conflict. With your friends at school, which bank do you tend to go towards? The fight or flight and overwhelm, or the bank that's numb and shut down? 99 and 44, 100% of the kids will tell me. And I tell them how I am when I'm overwhelmed. Then I'll ask this question: how many times during the day do you go to that one bank or the other? Again, they'll tell you. They're very self-aware when they're not triggered. And I say, do you want to reduce that? Now, if they say no, I'm going to leave it to them. They are their own person. They have agency. And if they want that hassle, so be it. And I'll comment on it. Say, gosh, when I'm in that situation, my stomach gets all tied up. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a foodie, and it's not good to eat food when my stomach is all knotted up. So how do you deal with that? I'm dealing with them as an intelligent other, and they haven't been treated like that. And when they start to be treated like that, that's the beginning of change. But until they want that change, until their intent is to connect to others in peaceful ways, better ways than the angry ways, I don't bother. They have to want to. Now, again, I'm being sneaky. If there's other sibling in the house, I will operate with them as if they are a loving other, another connection. Oh, you're favoring so and so. I am. Very good observation, because they've learned how to give me their connection points without going crazy. I will give the same to you when you can. Now it's on them. Now it's on the kid to make that change. Because as long as they have you nodded, as long as they have you hooked, you're such a bad parent. I know, I'm trying my best. Uh-uh. I know what good parenting is. Like you know what any good relationship is with a friend. Use that. You want the kid to befriend himself or herself. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing such a sense of allowing these kids to have their emotions,
Yes.
even though it is uncomfortable.
Yes.
And like I think about with my own son who's now in his 20s, but when we were dealing with all this years ago, and he would get so angry, and I was so tempted to send him to like family center, like go stay there for the night. He couldn't stay at the other parent's house, but he just wouldn't, he didn't want to. And I remember, and I've probably talked about this before, maybe even with you, Dr. Wayne, but calling his therapist and being like, I can't take it. Like, I just need him out of here. He's just, throwing things all over the place. And it's frightening. He was bigger than me at the time. And the therapist said, no, now is the time that you need to be steady,
Yeah.
because now he's finally getting in tune with his emotions. He has a right to be angry. He has a right to be sad. Until then, they had just been spending a lot of time talking about current events, debate issues, all kinds of things that my son was interested in, but not getting to any of the emotional stuff. So his therapist, whose name was Mark at the time, was just like, this is really good. I know it's hard for you, Lisa, but you cannot. This is the last thing you should do is to send him somewhere else to deal with his emotions. You need to be here for him, because part of those emotions are the abandonment by the other parent. You can't do the same thing. Stay with it. And it blew through like a storm, and it did get a lot better. But it was hard. It was hard to be part of that.
There's a teacher I really, really follow. She's got lots of wisdom. Her name is Pema Chodron,
Oh
and
yeah.
her most famous book is Go to the Places That Scare You.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the heated exchange, that's the last place I want to go. But that's where you have the most power, the most authenticity, and the most vibrancy. That's what you're modeling for the kid. Are you going to do it well? Who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no. But you'll continue to have confidence because you know that place. The kid may not know that place. And you bring up another important issue. The kid is struggling because he or she doesn't have stability. You, the parent, you're paying such attention to this kid from the time they're moment one. You know their assets. So I'm looking at you, Lisa, and in my mind's eye, I see someone who's strong and brave and curious and the kindest little kid I've ever seen. I'm not seeing that person now. Can we too go find that person? Now, again, I'm that third party talking. If the rage isn't excessive, they want it. They want to be heard. Many of the same kids of the parents you're dealing with, the thing they tell me in this time of my mindfulness class is so-and-so doesn't listen to me. So-and-so can be the other parent, so-and-so can be the teacher, so-and-so can be the coach. And I say the obvious thing. And if they would listen, what would you say? There's a pause. Don't play with me. No, tell me. They will. Boom, boom, boom. And a lot of times it's very uncomfortable. And it's not the time to chastise kids for using words that aren't acceptable in the house. Are you done? Do you need to get any more out? If you're done, then we can go to the next step. But you got to get that stuff out because that's their reality. It's just filling up the bubble that's their awareness. You want those blinders to go bigger and bigger and bigger.
This is such a parallel, like a mirror of what we deal with the parents and ourselves. I just did a post, I just want to be heard. I'm thinking this is the exact same way that these kids feel. I just want to be heard. And we think about when we talk to other people, how disarming is it when somebody actually is listening and paying attention? It's such a relief just to have someone pay that attention. So it's like you're saying, kids need that same attention. They need to be heard sometimes, whether they're angry or sad or whatever. You can't try to fix it. You just have to kind of be present for it and let them
So
get it out.
You asked the question, how do you know how to diffuse it? And I don't think there's a formula, but what I've used is take that moment when they are responding to you saying, all right, I'm listening. And they give you their rage and say, how intense is it in your barometer? I measure everything on a 0, on a 1 to 10, 10 being really extreme, 1 being really not. Where is the rage right now in your body as you're receiving it? So I have one kid, cute kid, very bright, who is not being heard a lot. And in class, I told a story, a true story, of my brother and I playing in the living room, jumping on the couch, which was verboten, and he knocked over an ashtray. It's in those days when my mother smoked. Big glass green ashtray. And it fell on the floor and shattered into thousands of shards of glass. Then my brother, being 4 and being his temperament, decided to do a dance on the glass shards. He thought that was a real bright move. So there's this kid screaming, blood everywhere. My kid loved that story. That's now a part of our class. And I said, I haven't heard that story. I play dumb. So he tells the story with great enthusiasm. Lately, he doesn't tell the story with great enthusiasm. That's how I know he's losing his blinders. He's able to communicate feelings in a socially acceptable way.
Yeah, amazing. I also really like how you, and this is what we do too, you share your own experience. Like you don't just ask them a question, say, go ahead, answer me. And being this removed person, but you say, you ask the question and say, I'll start, because that's disarming also. Like you're a human being too, even though you're the teacher, you're a human being.
And you gotta, and I say this to your parents with as much love and tenderness as I can muster. You've got to be able to accept their view of you. Because this particular kid says, you're a flaming idiot. Yeah, okay, yeah, sometimes I am. It doesn't bother me because the story I just shared was not really a rational thing to do. So yeah, I am a flaming idiot sometimes. And for him to recognize that his teacher of mindfulness sometimes isn't very, very mindful is a really human thing. And no, I'm not that way most of the time. He said, why? Oh, he asked me the question, why should I listen to you if you're not very mindful? Because I'm not that way all the time. And you are. I tell him.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you have experience with this, but I always love to ask anyone who deals with kids this question because it's just so common with our community. How does one deal with a child who refuses to talk to them? We
Oh, easy, easy,
often
easy,
talk about
easy,
kids who've
easy,
been
easy, easy.
easy. Wow, let's hear it.
Remember that third party? I'm watching this party of this dance between mom and kid. And you get the angry child to go do something. You catch them in the act of doing good. So I'll give a quick example. Eighth grade class, inner city. It was like 90% free breakfast. And I had this Charisse. Charisse was a goth in training. She had more eye makeup. Her wardrobe was black on black. And Charisse had dagger eyes, looks that kill. Charisse was also really bright. And she liked Morrissey. Morrissey was her god. And I was charged by the principal to make sure she didn't flunk math. And at that point, we're doing, I don't know, division of mixed fractions, something really many steps. And I had to prove that she could do the problem. And all the other kids had to do the 10 problems a day for homework. She would do zilch. So the thing she liked more than anything else was to go out on the blacktop during recess and pout because, because that's what she did. She was really good at it. And I said, you can't go out on the blacktop until you show me you can do division of fractions. I'm not going to do it. I said, okay. You can either do 10 problems like the other kids or go teach Trudy, who was a nerd in training. She just was so nerdy. I don't know what else to say. You go teach her how to do it. If Trudy can do the problem, not only do you get to go on the blacktop, you get extra 5 minutes. Are you kidding me? Boom, she did it. That's a 2-for-1. Trudy got it. Charisse got it.
Right. And I know as a teacher myself that one of the best ways to learn is to teach someone else how to do something.
And you could see Teresa rolling her eyes like, what kind of imbecile do we have here? And I looked and went, she did it. She did it.
Love it. Love all the psychology behind this. So, okay, but what about, all right, so what about if I'm thinking kids who are separated from the parents and the other parent is bad mouthing them and saying, you shouldn't talk to that other parent because they're a terrible person. I don't know if there's anything
I get
to do about that.
all the time from the parents who are going through
Right.
high impact divorce.
Right.
And they're feeling really tender because they're really trying hard to be available and to listen better to their kid. And the kid will tell them, well, dad says you are X, Y, Z. And the only appropriate response is, and that's dad's opinion. No
Love
defense.
it.
No defense whatsoever. I'm not going to say that's dad's opinion and I'm ABC. That's dad's opinion. And he has a right to that opinion. What do you believe in? Now, the kid just asked me a question. Of course I don't. I think that's the silliest thing on earth. But that's his opinion. And he's allowed to have that opinion.
So refreshing. That's such a great answer. Well, Dr. Wayne, I mean, we've covered so much. I love that I had the excuse to talk to you today. How can people find you? We just recommended you last night to someone who reached out over Instagram who I'd never talked to, but I was like, you are the man. And he left.
For those who don't know, Lisa and Chris have the same publisher that Dr. Barb and I have. So I have a book with Dr. Barb that just came out called Claim Your Light. And the subtitle is Unlocking Your Capacity to be a More Vibrant and Authentic Person. We have the audacious claim you can do that under the worst circumstances. When you do that under the worst circumstances, you have confidence. So then you can do it under the best circumstances. So you know what an elevator speech is? You got to say, okay, what's the book?
The
And
pitch.
you got
Yep.
like one or two floors that explain it. You know, maybe a friend has come in or a colleague. So I finally got the elevator speech down to 10 seconds. You want it?
Yeah.
Claim your light prevents you from becoming a zombie.
Perfect. Again, very refreshing. Okay, so besides the book, which we know about, and that you, Chris, me, and Dr. Barb have done our what do we call ourselves? The Fab Four.
Fab Four.
We've done some interviews, and we're doing another one this summer together with our two books and our four people. But how can people find you to help their kids turn their volume down?
So two ways. One, Dr. Barb and I do mindfulness trainings and classes for adults on a website called Great Masters. So if you go to Great Masters Inc., GreatMastersinc.com, you go to our site. And if you're just interested in my classes with kids, go to W. Benenson. And it's like a law firm, Ben and Son, BENENSON @gmail.com.
Okay. And of course, I have your Instagram handle, and people can contact me to find you, and we'll just keep putting your name out there because you've been so helpful. And I'll tell you off camera about the accolades that you received in this past week's legal abuse support group. So thank you so much for being such an excellent resource for me, and especially for our clients and this broader community. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon.